then Anglo-American literature, or poetry especially, which always had tried to come to some moral conclusion or lesson. And I don't like that about poetry in English. And American poetry especially is still full of that. It's just boring. I don't like it. It's not what I want to do or find exciting. And from there, I had a chance to go to Puerto Rico one summer. I'd been reading some of the Spanish poets like Machado, Jimenez, Lorca, and started learning Spanish there. I knew French already, and started translating some of that work into English just as a way of studying it, really. And ended up majoring in Spanish and English in undergraduate college, and went into grad work in Latin American literature, because Latin American literature at that time, from the early 60s especially, was just really very alive. New stuff going on. There was a big boom in fiction, as they called it. And the poetry was fascinating, not only from that period, but from starting in the 20s. The poetry was just really interesting. And even before that, the modernistas, Rubén Darío and so on, Gutiérrez Nájera, a Mexican poet, were writing a kind of French-influenced but different poetry that was not drawing these moral conclusions. It was playing with language. It was sensual. It had ideas in it. And so I've been pretty much interested in that ever since.
So, so who are these writers, American, that you felt were drawing conclusions or heavy-handed? Like what? I think I know what you're talking about, but like, for example, what?
Well, you name it. I think some of the exceptions are E. E. Cummings, who sort of didn't do that, and a few others. But I don't want to name names.
Yeah, okay, fair enough,
it's just a basic tendency in American poetry, exacerbated enormously by the creative writing industry, which has produced this formulaic stuff and these sets of rules. It's a rhetoric you have to follow, and it just seems dead to me.
So who were the French guys that influenced the Latin American life?
Well, Verlaine, Baudelaire, Rimbaud, that group of people had a great influence on the modernistas slightly afterwards, in the early part of the 20th century and late 19th century in Latin America. And that really created a great explosion of innovation in Latin American poetry. And in fiction too, although the influences there were broader. Faulkner was a big influence on the fiction writers in Latin America, for example. Though they took what Faulkner did in slightly different directions, made it more surrealist and so on. Like Garcia Marquez, for example. Marquez does fantastic things with this enormous sense of humor, but it's hard to imagine him doing what he did without Faulkner having done what he did beforehand. There's a link there.
Do you think is Latin American poetry still vibrant today?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. We were just down in Uruguay at a big encuentro, or convention, you might say, of experimental writers in Montevideo, and most of them were from Latin America. A couple of guys from Spain, it was great. I mean, they were doing fascinating stuff.
Do you think, what about American writing today, or experimental writing, or avant-garde writing?
That's a lively field. There are a lot of people doing good stuff. And that's what's in the Avant Writing collection. None of these people have anything to do with English departments. I don't know any of them who do. They're all doing something else. They're architects, they're bums, they're chemists, they work as clerks or whatever. But none of them are in English departments. That's not English, American poetry, the new American poetry is not occurring in the academy. It's just not there.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's kind of the way it's always been with literature. The new stuff, the stuff that really changes things, that's alive and dynamic, occurs outside of whatever institution or establishment exists at the time. It's exactly what's happening today. No different.
So how do these people contact you then? So these writers that are outside of academia, and do they approach you, or do you somehow?
Well, both. There's a big network. I mean, we all know each other. The internet has made that a lot easier. But before that, there was stuff going on through small press activities or micro press, and there were get-togethers occasionally, and people found out about other people through networking of various sorts. And the amount of stuff that's being published now that's very new and exciting is enormous. Being published through electronically and e-books or through services like Lulu.com, and people still doing things, going to the copy shop and making 50 copies of something and that kind of stuff. There are a number of listservs and blogs and websites that people interact on, send stuff through.
Do you spend a lot of time on your computer every day, reading blogs and stuff?
Yeah. I have to limit it. I have some eye problems and can't do too much of that. But yeah, that's where a lot of it occurs. That's where a lot of the communication occurs.
How about your small press, right? Is it still, how many books do you put out a year, or is it?
Well,
how's it going?
Depends on what you call a book. We have a Lulu venture where we're doing some things through Lulu, things that would be really expensive to produce a printed edition of, with a lot of color in it, that kind of thing, or big. But there's also still a publication of printed books and chapbooks and little folded broadsides and that kind of thing. So I enjoy doing that. It's a way of having complete control over the finished product, and I can. I've been doing it so long, I can put something together pretty quickly and get it out there. I distribute a lot through the Mail Art Network, International Mail Art Network, and Jesse has done some of that too.
Yeah.
But the small press doesn't make any money. It doesn't even break even. Never has.
So you always release your own stuff yourself nowadays?
No. I do some of it, but more and more it's being published by other people, and that's fine. There are still a few things I like to have, as I said, complete control over.